My name is Dishon Murage. I've been working as the East Africa representative for Seacology for now nearly 12 years, since 2008. And it has been a very wonderful experience working for this renowned organization. One thing that I can say about the East Africa region, which falls within the Western Indian Ocean region, is that we are blessed with a rich biodiversity as well as a number of endemic species. However, the status of this biodiversity is under threat from a number of things. One, anthropogenic, essentially I'm referring to human activities, increasing urbanization, increasing demand for land, for cultivation for food production. We are having cases of increased levels of deforestation of terrestrial forests. And when we come within the coastal and marine waters, we have a number of threats facing this marine biodiversity, including pollution, the negative impacts of climate change, as well as increasing focus by government as well as private investors who will require land to develop. As a result, there is a need to create a balance between increased demand for human habitation as well food production, as well as conserving the resource, because this resource, without these resources, I can assure you we don't have a reason to continue existing, and actually it becomes a threat to our own survival. When I started working, I managed to meet one guy, one old man called Professor Shaibu Shekui. He's the one guy who introduced and made me understand really what needs to work for conservation to work, to actually provide a solution. And I learned one lesson is that conservation in the midst of poverty cannot work. There is a need for conservation to understand that communities that actually derive benefits or derive their livelihoods from the natural resources, they are not in any way have a desire to destroy the resource they depend on. And whenever you come across a situation where the community are taking a resource to an extent where that resource is getting degraded, is usually driven by poverty. Working in Seacology has really taught me one thing, is that it creates this situation, these opportunities for communities where the organization tries to address a need within the community, may it be water, health, education, or any other, and it tries to address that need. And on the other side, the community makes a commitment to conserve. And I've seen that work very well, because so far within my 11 years of working in Seacology, I've worked with a number of communities, and I've seen where these communities' needs are addressed, and there's a link between that need that has been addressed and the conservation. I've seen that communities are willing and able to conserve and protect critical habitats, endangered species, as well as cultures. We have had an opportunity to visit Zanzibar, whereby we've been able to visit a number of projects that have been funded and supported by Seacology. The first day we went for a visit to Kiwengwa. Kiwengwa happens to be one of the indigenous forests located in Zanzibar, where Seacology is working with the local community as well as the Department for Forests. This is a government agency for forests and natural products. In the conservation of the Kiwengwa forest, Seacology there has been able to support the establishment of an information center. Is working with the community to develop ecotourism opportunities in relation to caves tourism. It's also working with the community to establish an apiary and to enhance beekeeping so that the community can produce honey which they can sell. And is also working with a few women's groups from Chekeni village to actually develop products from natural products like soap, perfumes, which can be used and marketed to local tourists visiting the forest. We are currently in Kenya conducting a number of visits. We have so far been to Sea Island in Vanga. We have been to Wasini, and as well as Mukwiro, and currently we'll be visiting, and today we'll be visiting Kirepwe, and later on we'll be visiting Marereni. So far the experience has shown us that communities continue to work. Even where Seacology had already worked and already finished, the communities are still continuing to work and engaging actively in the conservation of those resources. So far we have seen, like in Sea Island, there's a now increased interest from other donors to work with that local community, particularly in relation to blue carbon and also carbon crediting. In Wasini, we have been able to see the work of Seacology that it initiated there in 2008 has been instrumental in terms of making sure that the community becomes now visible as active in the conservation of mangroves as well as coral reef. And there is now an active coral reef restoration project that is being undertaken by the Wasini Beach Management Unit, which was among the first groups in Kenya to receive funding and support from Seacology Foundation in 2008. In Wasini, we supported the rehabilitation and construction of water cisterns. A total of about 5 water cisterns were either rehabilitated or constructed afresh. In total, the capacity of the water cistern, either rehabilitated or constructed, was about 900,000 liters of water. Before Seacology came and actually implemented this project within the island, the community were bringing this water from the mainland at a cost of about 50 Kenya shillings per 20-liter jerrycan. Now, this 50 shillings for someone who is salaried or somewhere else might sound very little money, but when you're talking about communities that have very limited sources of income, 50 shillings every day for a 20-liter jerrycan, and you're not talking about one jerrycan for a family, for a household of 5 people, you're talking about 3 or more. It was a lot of money. And now when Seacology came into and constructed and rehabilitated these cisterns, what we have seen is an interesting situation, because now the communities are no longer bringing water from the mainland. They're actually now purchasing, because the water is sold at a small discount to the community, at 10 shillings for 20-liter jerrycan. And this money doesn't go to Seacology. This is money that goes directly to the communities, and they are using that money to support a number of projects and other activities within the village. So I can say one thing about this support to the local community has been very instrumental in addressing a very big, huge need for communities, essentially addressing a need for reliable and safe water for communities, for villagers living in Wasini Island. One thing about islands is that because of their isolated nature from the mainland, they are actually refugia for a number of endemic species. And what we have found out as an organization, there has been a limited focus in actually conserving biodiversity found on islands. The other thing is that islands, in most cases, like in Kenya, within Kenya, have been areas that for a number of years, due to their isolation, they don't have big population. Therefore, this creates an opportunity to put action well in advance before these people start moving to this island, either to create farmland for farming and for other activities. So I believe it's really important that what we are doing in relation to islands, that we continue doing that, focusing so that we can also conserve the key species and critical habitats that are found within this island, as well as ensure those endemic species that are found on this island, we don't lose them. I really appreciate working in Seacology. I really do appreciate the work it's doing in the region, and to say that whatever Seacology is doing within the region, I've worked with the communities and they really do appreciate what we are doing. And already we can see that what we are doing is already creating positive impacts within the local community, as well as in terms of the resource that we are so working hard to conserve.